This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Afreilichen Shushan Purim, Tavshin Pei Daled. Today we join with the residents of Yerushalayim in being Mesameach on Purim. Today is a very joyous day, not just because we didn't say Tachnan. It's not a Yom Tif because we didn't say Tachnan. We didn't say Tachnan because it's a Yom Tif, just to clarify. We didn't say Lam Natseach either. And I want to share some great news. Be'ezus Hashem, we have 2 Sfarim in the queue. Chinuch Habanim and Lag Ba'omer in English for Art Scroll. If anybody would like to be Mishtatev, it is a very special opportunity. There's a very interesting question, a very important question. And we come to the Yom Tov of Purim, and all of a sudden we have different options of when you celebrate, depending on how old your wall is. I mean, when it comes to other Yom Tovim, it's uniformly celebrated throughout the entire spectrum of the Jewish people. Irrespective of where you live, we celebrate the Yom Tov on the same day. Tesvav Tishrei is Sukkot. Chav Hei Kislev is Chanukah. Vav Sivan is Shavuos. When it comes to the Yom Tov of Purim, which, by the way, it's interesting, one of the main themes of Purim is Achdus and unity. And what do? We enact it in a way where there's no unity. Oh, when are you celebrating Purim? Oh, you're doing Tesvav? I celebrate Yodaled. Tesvav is the day that I don't celebrate Purim. So what's the meaning? What's the rationale behind enacting 2 different days? Especially, this is not unity. Maybe it's even loisus goydedu. And this question is articulated by none other than the Ramban in the very beginning of Masechta Megillah on Daf Beis. And the Ramban says, Ani tama ma'oid. I wonder greatly. Mara'u al-kacha u'mahigiya aleihem. Why did they see fit to do it this way? And what did they reach? La'asos Yisrael agudos b'mitzvah hazu, to make the Jewish people disparate groups in this mitzvah. Even though maybe this is not a violation of loisus goydedu. It's like 2 courts in 2 different cities. Why did they divide it into 2 groups? And further, where do we find in the Torah any precedent to say, well, some celebrate it this way and some that way? But doesn't the Torah say, "V'haTorah amra, Torah achas, u'mishpat echad, yiyah lachem, v'chol detikun rabbanon, ke'ein da'iraisa tikun"? Isn't there a Torah rule that 1 Torah and 1 mishpat should be for you, and everything the Rabbanan enacted, they enacted ke'ein da'iraisa? So if mid-da'iraisa we always try to keep things uniform, then shouldn't the Rabbanan likewise keep everything uniform? By the way, in the past, we've said over from the Chassam Sofer, it's printed in Tairas Moshe, that on Purim many people are marrying and collecting, and they're involved in mitzvahs. However, they're not involved in the most important mitzvah, which upholds the world, namely Talmud Torah. And if all of Klal Yisrael would celebrate 1 day of Purim, chas v'shalom, it may jeopardize the entire world. Because after all, we know, if not for the mitzvah of Higisa Bayom V'Layla, if not for the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, the world could not exist. And therefore, if all of Israel would have 1 day of Purim, then there might be a moment in time, maybe at 3 a.m. one year, where the Torah would not be being learnt, and then the world would cease to exist. So in order to preserve and ensure the continuous endurance and viability of planet Earth, therefore Chazal enacted 2 different days of Purim, so that there would always be a moment that someone's learning. So when we're having our Purim, the Jews in Eretz Yisrael are learning. and when they have their Purim, we get together for Koilel Agra de Pirka, the afternoon share. This is the reason of the Chassam Sofer in the Sefer Torah's Moshe. By the way, the Ramban himself says a historical reason for this, and that is the Ramban is medayik from the Psukim of the Megillah. The Gemara in Megillah even has a Havamina that people in walled cities should not have to celebrate Purim whatsoever. You remember the Gemara has a Havamina? Ve'ema krachim lai. Maybe people in walled cities should not have to celebrate Purim. The reason being, why should someone in a walled city have to celebrate Purim? They were never in danger by the decree of Haman, because they would have been protected by their wall. And in fact, the Ramban is medayik from the Psukim that in year 1, only open cities were enacted amidst the holiday of Purim. But they never enacted Purim in year 1 for walled city residents because they were never in danger to begin with. It was only in year 2 where they realized the grave danger that all of Klal Yisrael was in. So the Ramban learns that the reason why we have 2 separate days of Purim is because initially Purim was only made for the Prazim, the open city residents. They never made Purim for the walled city residents because they didn't really think they were in danger. Therefore, when year 2 came, when they realized that in fact the walled city residents were indeed in danger, they enacted Purim for them as well. That's why, between me and you, us Chutz La'aretz people, where we have a lot of disadvantages living outside of Eretz Yisrael, one advantage is we get to celebrate the real Purim. The real Purim is Yodaled. The real Simcha is Yodaled. We were the ones who were in danger. And then as an afterthought in year 2, they added a Purim, but to indicate that it's not the same Purim as the Yodaled people, they made it on an entirely different day. That's the Ramban in Shas on Daf Beis, an amazing Ramban. I highly suggest that you learn it thoroughly. This past Purim, Rabbi Glatstein, you want to see this? Check this out. This past Purim, I came across another answer. Watch this. I have this sefer called Orchos Chaim. The Orchos Chaim is Reb Chaim of Luniel. And the Chida, in the sefer Berkei Yosef, in Orchos Chaim, Siman Tafresh Pechas, he brings the following question. We know that for a walled city resident, what's the determination of a walled city resident? From when did the wall have to be standing from? We know the Gemara, the Mishnah says in the beginning of Megillah, Miyamais Yeshua ben Nun. And the Rishonim ask, the Rashba, the Ritva, they ask, why did they make it dependent on Yehoshua ben Nun? Why not Shushan? Why not Moshe? Why not Aaron? So the Orchos Chaim of Luniel, in Siman Tafresh Pechas, let's see if I could find it. The Orchos Chaim of Luniel, in Siman Tafresh Pechas, amazingly says that they made it dependent on Yehoshua ben Nun because I found it. The Lama Talo. Now, this is my favorite copy of the Orchos Chaim of Luniel. You know why? This was the Orchos Chaim of Luniel that the Chida owned. See this? Look. This copy of the Orchos Chaim was the Chida's copy of Orchos Chaim of Luniel. Now, we've brought this out in the past, but now we're bringing it out for a new reason. Because in the Berkei Yosef, the Chida deals with this question, that why is the determining factor Yehoshua ben Nun? So Orchos Chaim says, Lama talu hadavar b'mei Yehoshua v'loi talu hadavar b'mei Achashverosh k'dei lachloi kavod l'Eretz Yisrael shoysa charav v'oysa zman. Fine, that we all know. Amnam tzarachiyun lama loi talu hadavar b'Moshe v'Aaron. Right? That's a good question. We weren't toilet in Shushan because in the times of Shushan, Yerushalayim was destroyed. So then, so we were toilet in Yehoshua ben Nun. But Orchos Chaim Luniel asked, Lama loi talu hadavar b'Moshe v'Aaron. Ve'efshir ki mipnei kvodo shel Yeshua shenilcham reishis ba'amalek Talo bayadavar. Maybe they were Talo in Yeshua. He's the first general to fight Amalek. The Orchos Chaim Lunel is not the only Rishon who says this, but the Chidah quotes it for the Orchos Chaim. By the way, fine. That's the Orchos Chaim Lunel. Comes the Chidah. So if walled cities are dependent on Yehoshua, what Shem Hashem was Yehoshua connected to? So the Chidah says in the Sefer Kisei David that at first his name was Hoshea, and then Moshe Rabbeinu davened what? Ka Yoshiacha Me'atzas Meraglam. Says the Chidah, since the wall is dependent on Yehoshua, therefore, and Yehoshua is connected to Ka, therefore they made the Purim that's connected to Yehoshua on Tes Vav to remember Yehoshua who's connected to Ka. Ka is 15. That's the Chidah. Okay? Pretty interesting. The Chidah in the Sefer Kisei David says that based on the Orchos Chaim Lunel, that the reason they picked Yehoshua is the first general to fight Amalek, and therefore the wall is dependent on Yeshua. And Yeshua, therefore, says the Chidah, is connected to the Shem Ka. Therefore, the Yom Tif associated with Yehoshua is Tes Vav. The Chidah says another remez in the Sefer Likutei Chadrei Baten. He says like this: Ki yad al keis ka. Ki yad. Purim is the 14th. So you say, but why do walled cities celebrate the 15th? The answer is case. Case is the kisei of Hashem. It's because case ka. Because the kisei of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yerushalayim, that's ka, that's the 15th. So the Chidah says both the 14th and the 15th are alluded to in the pasuk. Ki yad, yad is yadalid, but case is a reference to Shalayim, case is ka. In the Sefer Dvar Machadim, the Chidah also says that Yudalid Kiyad is a remez to Adar, is a remez to Purim of the Prazim. Why are the Mukafim different? The answer is Kiyad. Why the Mukafim Tesvav? Al Case Yushalayim, which is destroyed. Now, where is the remez Yushalayim destroyed? It doesn't say Kisei, it says Case. Kiyad. Purim is the 14th. But case, because of the Kisei HaKavod, which is Necharav and is only case, and therefore it has to be determined based on a walled city that was in the times of Shushan, in order to make a Zikaron for Yerushalayim, so they made it Ka on the 15th. Okay. But I want to share with you a different approach today. This is the approach of Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. There's an idea that just like Moshe Rabbeinu is koilel all 600,000 Jews, so is Mordechai. The Medrash in Esther Rabbah says, Ish Yehudi haya b'shushan abira, Ish melamed shahaya Mordechai shakol b'doiroi k'Moshe b'doiroi. It teaches that Mordechai was equal in his generation like Moshe. Moshe was v'ha'ish Moshe, just like Moshe was Amad b'peretz, like it says in Tehillim, Vayomer lahashmidam lulei Moshe b'chiroi Amad b'peretz. Mordechai also was Doiresh Tov li'amoy v'Doireshom l'chazarei. Just like Moshe taught Torah to Klal Yisrael, like it says, Re'ei limadati eschem, Mordechai taught Torah to Klal Yisrael. Like it says, Divrei Shalom ve'emes. Emes is Torah. The Zohar HaKadosh says that when the pasuk says that Yisro did chesed with all of Klal Yisrael, how's that? He helped Moshe, and Moshe is koilel all of Klal Yisrael. Okay, friends, there's a big shaila. When did Moshe pass away? You know about this question? When did Moshe die? Tosfos Menachos and Daf Lamed mentions, why do we say Tziduk Hadin on Shabbos by Mincha? He quotes Rav Sar Shalom Gaon, because Moshe Rabbeinu passed away Shabbos by Mincha. Therefore, Shabbos by Mincha, Nimnu Milasek B'Torah, because Chacham Shemes, all the Batei Midrashos are Batel. But Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm 120 today. He says, Ben Me'ah ve'esrim shana anoichi hayom. Which means Moshe finished and completed his 120 years. And if he died on Shabbos, so then Hayom is Erev Shabbos. So he wrote it based on the future? And the Gemara says that, in Seder Olam it's brought, that on the 7th of Adar, Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. It's Mashno's Erev Shabbos. Because it says, after the Pesach, on the 21st, they surrounded the city, and it was on the 7th day, and the Tosfos makes a cheshbon that Moshe Rabbeinu must have passed away on Erev Shabbos. There's a big question in the Rishonim. When did Moshe Rabbeinu pass away? Also, we have a tradition, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote 13 Sifrei Torah on the day he passed away. But the question is, if he passed away on Shabbos, he couldn't have written 13 Sifrei Torah on the day he passed away. The Rama MiPano, in Maimar Chikar Hadin, Chelek Beis Perek Yud Gimel, the Rama MiPano says something astounding. The Rama MiPano says that tzaddikim have two parts to them. They have tselem and they have demus. Says the Rama MiPano, in order to reconcile the difficulties of when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, did Moshe Rabbeinu write 13 Sifrei Torah on the day he passed away? Yes. Did he write them on Shabbos? No. So how did he pass away on Shabbos? The answer is, he wrote them on Friday. So then how did he pass away on Shabbos? The answer is, Masha'anu bebiurai im hamafurash atzlenu yafa yafa b'maimer hanefesh perek tezvav sheyesh l'chol echad mitzadikei Yisrael tselem udmus elyon. V'hu loy nistalik l'moshe adonenu ad yom Shabbos v'tselem udmus tachtoin shenistalik menu be'erev Shabbos. Moshe Rabbeinu's lower soul departed Friday. His supernal soul departed on Shabbos. When did he write the Sifrei Torah? Friday. Why do we say Tziddik Hadin? Because his Tselem Adumus Elyon departed on Shabbos by Mincha. Comes Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz and he says, Adavar nifla ma'od. Why do open cities celebrate the 14th and walled cities the 15th? You see, until now, we were going with the Ramban. The Ramban says the Iker Purim is Yadalid, and the walled cities were they added in year 2 even for walled cities. But the Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz has a different take on this. He brings the Medrash. Mordechai is equal to all 600,000 Jews. All Jews are encompassed in the great soul of Moshe Rabbeinu. Mordechai too encompassed all souls. Toisus and Menachas Daf Lamed. The Rosh and Arvei Psachim are Mesupik. When did Moshe die? Shabbos or Erev Shabbos? By the way, if you want to know more about this, we once gave a shiur on Hoshana Rabbah. And the Rama MiPano says his neshama left Erev Shabbos, which was Zayin Adar, but his guf remained, and his Selma Demos Elyon left on Shabbos. Now we have a general principle, friends, that there's a difference between walled city people and open cities. Who's on a higher madrega? Normally we say that people in open cities are in a much higher madrega. You know why? Because in an open city you have to have bitachon. You can't rely on your wall. Usually, the way we refer to tzaddikim is they live in open cities. The way we refer to people on a low level is walled cities. Walled cities. So, the Medrash says, Vayishlach es eretz Canaan, Vayomer aleim aluza ba'negev, va'alisem es ahar. First the spy looks at the lower quality land, and then they show him the good quality. It says Ureisem es haaretz 3 times. Yesh eretz shemegadeles giborim, v'yesh eretz shemegadeles chaloshim. Says the Gemara in Eruvin, Knesset Yisrael says to Hashem, don't treat me like a walled city resident. In the walled cities, they have gezela, arayos, shvu ashav, shvu ashachar. Let's go out to the field, and I'll show you Talmidei Chachamim who are oisek b'Torah mitoch hadchak. People on a lower level are considered walled city residents. People on a greater level are considered open city residents. For example, in Shoftim, we say, Chadilu v'razayin b'Yisrael, Chadilu ad shakamti devaira, shakamti yehem b'Yisrael. So, in the Sefer Yeshua Gedola, which is a compilation of ideas from Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, and it comes from the Yaros Tavash Chelik Beis Drush Yud Zayin. The Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz says as follows: why was the 13th of Adar a day that was turned from mourning to happiness? You ever think about that? The 13th of Adar is a day that was primed for our annihilation, chas v'shalom, and then it was overturned. You know why? The 13th of Adar is the last day of the mourning of Moshe Rabbeinu. He passed away on 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And that day is therefore mourning that turns around to joy. And v'chol asher toimar Yonasan lami beis hamelech. Moshe Rabbeinu encompasses all the souls of Klal Yisrael. The tzaddikim, they cling to the neshama of Moshe. The rest of Klal Yisrael cling to the nefesh of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now this is a very interesting idea, because if you look in Rama MiPano, he actually says that Moshe Rabbeinu's lower soul left on Friday, and his upper soul left on Shabbos. But let's see how Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz says this. He says, everyone is connected to the soul of Moshe. The greater Jews, they're connected to his neshama. Lower Jews are connected to his nefesh. It is known that the way when Moshe Rabbeinu referred to open city residents, he referred to people on a lower level. When he referred to people when he referred to open and walled cities, it was a reference to people on a high level or a low level. Tzadikim gemurim live in open cities because they rely on their own righteousness. They don't have to rely on protection. But those who are not tzadikim gemurim, they have to live in walled cities. Like the Gemara in Eruvin says, don't judge me like a walled city person. Or Devaira says, Chadlu Perazan b'Yisrael. Ad shekamti Devaira. Until Devaira, everybody had to live in walled cities. So now we understand like this. Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, those who live in the open cities are tzadikim gemurim, and they're connected to the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore, that Avelos ends on the 13th, and they rest on the 14th. So again, according to Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, it's a little different than the way the Rama MiPano says it. Rama MiPano says the lower soul of Moshe left on the 7th, and his upper soul left on the 8th. But the way Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz is understanding it is that he's saying that the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu left on the 7th. Mamela, the avelos for the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu ended on the 13th, and those who are connected to the neshama of Moshe rest on the 14th. But those are the open city residents. But those on a lower level, who are in the walled cities, they're connected to the nefesh of Moshe, who the nefesh left on the 8th of Adar, and the avelos ends on the 14th, and they didn't rest until the 15th. Bottom line is, this works out better for us here in America, because this is consistent with the Ramban, that the 14th of Adar is either the Purim for those who are really in danger, or for the real tzaddikim like us here in the Kollel Agra de Pirka, who we had Purim yesterday. Now, if you look in the Rama MiPano, he seems to say it the other way, but that's not how Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz took it. So let's go with that. So us very big tzaddikim over here who celebrated Purim on the 14th, it's because we're connected to the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. And for those celebrating Purim today on the 15th, they're probably also very big tzaddikim, especially if they're friends with us. So everybody should enjoy the Purim that they celebrate. But we see amazing ramazim, ki yad al kes ka. Yad is Yodalet Adar, Ka is Tesvav Adar. And Chassam Sofer says you can't have all of Israel celebrating the same Purim, because there always has to be somebody learning. Or the Ramban says that originally in year 1 they didn't enact Purim for the walled city residents. And here Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz is providing us with an understanding that it's connected to the way Moshe Rabbeinu departed from this world, where he departed in some form on Erev Shabbos, and that level of Avelos ceased on the 13th, and the 14th was a day of rest, or Moshe Rabbeinu's complete leaving this world was on the 8th, and therefore the Avelos was over on the 14th, and then the rest was on the 15th. But again, this very much connects Purim to Moshe Rabbeinu. And in the past we also learned that Purim was the bris milah of Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu is very much connected to the Yom Tov of Purim, which is the Yom Tov of Kimu v'Kiblu, a Yom Tov of Kabbalas HaTorah. And now we begin. Yesterday we said over that the beginning of the process of destroying Amalek is on Purim, and now we search for the chametz. We search for all the last crumbs of the Sitra Achra. And finally we're going to destroy it completely on Erev Pesach with Biur Chametz. There's a tradition from the Ari that Amalek will be completely destroyed on Erev Pesach. That's why we're Marbe and Tzedakah in this time of the year, because Gedolet Tzedakah Shemekareves Es HaGeula, and we hope by the time Erev Pesach comes, we'll be Zoicha to the Geula Shlema. Afreilach and Shushan Purim, everyone. Thank you for joining. Kol Tov. Baruch Tiyah. Kol Tov. Kol Tov. Kol Tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.